Obamacare architect Jonathan Gruber will testify before the House Oversight Committee next month following a deluge of sound bites illustrating his disdain of and eagerness to deceive the American people. And Gruber is the brains behind not just the president's health care plan, but projects in several states. Correspondent Doug McKelway has the story of one of them tonight.
MIT economics professor Jonathan Gruber has gone from the man with the magic healthcare formula to policy pariah since he was heard praising Obamacare's lack of transparency.
A huge political advantage, and basically, called the stupidity of the American voter.
Gruber's expertise had brought him millions in taxpayer-funded consulting fees from both the feds and several states, including Vermont.
And the only way we could take it on was first by mislabeling it, calling it a tax on insurance plans rather than a tax on people, and we all know it's really a tax on people.
4 years ago, the state decided to create the nation's first single-payer system.
Or should we sign this bill? All right, let's do it.
Which goes beyond Obamacare because everyone's health care will be paid for by taxpayers. Problem was, the big cost of such a system could cause Vermont's taxes to nearly double. To help figure out how to pay for it, the governor turned to an architect of Obamacare, Jonathan Gruber. And as with Obamacare, Vermont now has a transparency problem.
Right now, that system is being developed, albeit behind closed doors.
Peter Sterling runs Vermont Leads, a single-payer advocacy group, and he applauds Democratic Governor Peter Shumlin's decision not to present all the details just yet.
It's a very complicated effort the Shumlin administration is undertaking. I think of it as turning a battleship around.
But the Shumlin administration was supposed to have revealed key details about the plan months ago. And critics, even from his own party, are beginning to complain.
It's already like 2 years overdue. And I have sued for those records in Superior Court, and my lawsuit is still pending.
State Representative Cynthia Browning is a self-described progressive who supports single-payer. But this is one Democrat who wants transparency.
I also tried to get the legislature to issue what's called a legislative subpoena demanding the plans from the governor, but that didn't go over real well.
According to Browning, Gruber is helping design those financing plans.
Professor Gruber is using them right now. He has them and we don't. If I was doing a public records request right now, I would be asking for those plans.
In fact, Gruber has put off giving out specifics about his input to Vermont's plan, as shown in this exchange 3 years ago, with what many critics saw as uncalled-for condescension.
Any shall Gruber-type healthcare mega system will never lead to coercive mandates, ballooning costs, increased taxes.
Was this written by my adolescent children by any chance?
Professor Gruber was showing us something important about his attitude. He's very contemptuous of the voters.
Dr. Robert Emmons is a Burlington-based psychiatrist. He joined up with a group called Vermonters for Healthcare Freedom, which helped publicize Gruber's expensive contracts.
He's also telling us something very important about the attitudes of the people who have hired him. There's a culture of contempt in the Obama administration, and there's a culture of contempt here in Vermont in the Shumlin administration.
The recent controversy over Gruber's comments led the Shumlin administration to cancel his $400,000 consulting fee. However, he's already been paid $160,000. His MIT team will continue to be paid, and Gruber will continue to work on the Vermont plan.
We need solid economic modeling in order to move forward with health care reform. I've told Mr. Gruber that I expect his team to complete the work that we need to provide the legislature and Vermonters with a public health care financing plan. I've also informed Mr. Gruber that we will not be paying him any further for his part in completing that work.
Vermonters sent a message last night, and I heard it.
Governor Shumlin failed to win a majority vote against Republican Stephen Milne, an underfunded and political unknown, in the election this year, sending the final decision to the democratically controlled legislature in what amounts to a tiebreaker in January. That very same month, Gruber's recommendations will be presented to the legislature. Vermont Republicans hope the Gruber controversies will finally shine a light on the state's headlong rush to a single-payer health care system.
I'm always concerned when people are hiding developing policy and using the belief that the way you pass policy is to bypass the American public.
Joe Benning is the leading Republican in the state Senate. He had called on the governor to terminate Gruber's contract.
That's just not acceptable behavior in our society. The longer that it gets dragged out, the more frustrating it becomes, not just for Republicans, but for Democrats and progressives and independents who have been waiting for 4 years to have something happen.
It was Doug McElway reporting from Vermont. One of the president's big contributors is in big trouble tonight. Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel tells us who and why.
To my great friend and supporter Terry Bean, co-founder of HRC.
Prominent Democratic fundraiser and co-founder of Human Rights Campaign, 66-year-old Terry Bean was arrested last week after being indicted on sex-related charges with a teenage boy. The Oregonian reports Bean and his 25-year-old former boyfriend, Kia Lawson, used an iPhone app to arrange for a sexual encounter with a 15-year-old in a Eugene hotel in September 2013. Bean has given almost $70,000 of his own money to Mr. Obama's campaigns and raised at least $500,000 during the 2012 cycle.
I want to thank somebody who put so much work into this event, Terry Bean. Give Terry a big round of applause.
Bean's attorney says he's the victim of an extortion ring and, quote, no allegations against Terry Bean should be taken at face value. We look forward to the opportunity to clear his name. A spokesman for Human Rights Campaign says, quote, Terry Bean has taken a voluntary leave of absence from the HRC board until his issues are resolved. And his name has been dropped from the board of directors listing. Back in 2008, he made this political appeal to HRC's membership.
The election of Joe Biden and Barack Obama may turn out to be the most pivotal moment in our journey for equality.
Some critics say if Bean were a major Republican donor, it would be a much different story.
The coverage would be overwhelmingly negative, and it would be a trial in the media as opposed to a trial in the justice system. He would have been convicted just by the charges alone.
The White House has not responded to our request for comment. Brett?
Mike, thank you. Ferguson, Missouri braces for another night of protests as the president calls for calm again. We will talk about it and all the developments with the panel when we come back.